I'm assuming everybody can hear me and see me at this point. I'll bring the video in a minute, but I just wanted to say welcome. And if you haven't heard of Gentle Transitions before, we are a senior management company. And what that means is that we coordinate entire moves for people. Everybody works with one move manager that coordinates everything for you, from packing and moving, figuring out what you're bringing, and helping you figure out what to do with things you're not taking. Say, Therese, we can hear you.
Oh,
you want to mute?
Sure.
Thanks. All righty. Thanks. Sorry for that. So what I'm going to do is talk to you about downsizing today, because I know when people look at new communities, they take a tour, they get excited about moving, and then they go home and they start looking in their closets and they start looking in their storerooms and they say, I can't move for another year. We're going to have to go through all this stuff. So I'm here to help you figure out how to do it, starting small. If you leave with anything today, remember that I said start early. The earlier you start, the decisions will be yours. If you wait until the last minute or you get into a crisis situation, those decisions get taken away from you. And that is what you don't want to happen. So the first thing I'm going to share with you is a cartoon. And it will put us all on the same page because a lot of people are going through this. There we go. This is a cartoon by, it's this cartoon from the Star Tribune. A lot of us read that and watch Jeremy grow up. Well, Jeremy's now 24 and he's on his way to college. And he's helping his mother put things in the attic. And he says, here you go, Mom. Thanks, Jeremy. What is all this junk? Mostly things we're saving for you. These boxes are your elementary school papers and art projects. That trunk is where I store your middle and high school memorabilia. And we thought you'd want all this old furniture, plus Grandma's china cabinet and knickknacks for your first apartment. Notice the box of doilies and teapots. Mom, my first apartment will be the backpack that I carry around the world between gigs. And she looks at her son and she goes down to her husband and she says, our attic has been living a lie. So most of us, I love this cartoon because most of us have closets and storerooms that we know in the back of our minds are going to be our burden. They are things that we need to go through. Some people say, well, we'll be able to do it in no time. And what I'm telling you is start early because it's usually harder than you think. And a lot of us have already heard from our kids and our kids have said, we don't want anything. So now what do? Well, that's why I come out and talk to people. I come out because moving and downsizing is a number 10 on the psychological stress scale. If you think it's easy, it really isn't. I come out to spread the word that there's help out there. And because Gentle Transitions moves thousands of older adults, we have the experience. So many of us have lived in our homes for 40, 50, 60 plus years. And we haven't done a lot of moving. We don't know what the moving costs are. When we moved into our homes, we had very little furniture and then accumulated things over the years. So Gentle Transitions can make moves less stressful for people by sharing our secrets. We know that the majority of people have family move them. So it's important for me to come out and share what we do. And as a Gentle Transitions sorter, I'm the one that goes out and sits one-on-one with people and goes through closets. So I can share those different experiences with you, how to start, things to go through, and why it's difficult. I'm going to go through the process we use at Gentle Transitions because our process would be the same process you'd use when you move or when you start to downsize. We always do a complimentary move assessment. And this is just a free estimate. Every company that does what we do will give a free estimate. I suggest going through this process because if you haven't moved for many years or decades, it could be sticker shock as far as getting the moving truck and paying for people to pack up. So if you do that even a year before you move, you have an idea of what you're looking forward to. Then Gentle Transitions helps with the sorting, which is the downsizing piece. And we help with the packing, the moving, the unpacking, and then we do the resettling, which means taking things out of the boxes and putting it in its place. So beginning, why is downsizing and moving difficult for older adults? Well, we're often leaving a home of many years. We had one wonderful gentleman as a client who had lived in his home for 97 years. He was born in the same home that he raised his family in, and now he was moving to a community to have more fun. And he was getting rid of not only his things, but his parents' things, his grandparents' things. And because he lived in the family home, all the things came back to the family home. So he had a lot to go through. Some of us have physical challenges. Maybe our backs and our knees aren't what they used to be. And we need help with the lifting of the boxes and things like that. The emotional piece, I think as a sorter, is one of the hardest pieces because we often get attached to our items or we get so overwhelmed that we start in a closet, get overwhelmed, shut the door and go away and don't want to start it again. The last one is children aren't always available. Our kids don't live next door. Sometimes our kids live in other states or other countries, and they're not able to come in and help us on a regular basis do the downsizing. I worked with a wonderful woman who said, my daughter lives in Colorado. She said she'd come in this weekend and we're going to get it all done. You can't do it in one weekend. That's too much stress, and you will just get so overwhelmed that you'll stop. So do it little by little. And sometimes people don't want their kids to help them. Sometimes it's not the best working relationship as far as going through closets. Or maybe it's something where you start telling stories and you start looking at things and you don't make progress and you're under a timeline. So working with a third party can also be really helpful. I recommend this book if you're thinking of that you might be having a hard time getting rid of things. It's Managing Expectations. It is Downsizing the Family Home, What to Save, What to Let Go by Marnie Jameson. I like this book because she talks about her process of moving her own family, of going through her family home, and she has some difficulty. And I've had a lot of people give me feedback that it was really helpful. I took away 7 things from this book that I want to share with you, because they are things that I come across all the time when I work with someone. And these are the things that make it hard for people. Number 1, to remember that they're just things. Chances of us having something that is antique roadshow, incredible value is pretty rare. So think about what you have, and if you need to talk to somebody or an appraiser about those items, but often they're just things at the end of the day. Number 2, age does not confer value. I have many people tell me I have a lot of antiques. Well, antiques means that something is 100 years old. But if it is not rare and desirable, it may not have market value. And market value is the thing where somebody will pay you for an item. So you want to make sure that it is something that people are looking at. Large pieces of wood furniture aren't as valuable as they were a few decades ago. That Ethan Allen dining room set, which we paid $1,500 for, is now worth about $200. So it's a real eye-opener when you look at the things you have. You have to be really realistic, and sometimes that's hard. So think about market value as far as your antiques. Worth is a worthless term. And I say this because everybody thinks of things having worth to yourself that may not be worth the same thing to somebody else. This is often comes down to collections and collectibles. We all love to collect certain things. Sometimes they're things of great value, and sometimes they're things that we just like to have around us that make us happy. I collect flying pigs. I love flying pigs. They're worth about a dime a dozen. My kids have already said they don't want the pigs. If you collect something that just makes you happy, you like the thrill of the hunt, and you've accumulated quite a few of them, and you think they're valuable, have an appraiser look at them. If they are collections and you're moving to somewhere where you can't take them with you, or you can't take the entire collection, think about taking pictures of each one and taking the pictures with you rather than taking the item. Take your maybe a few of your best items and don't take the entire collection. I had a wonderful client that I worked with that had 40 birdhouses. They collected birdhouses at every state that they visited. And they knew the one they were going to take. It was their favorite. So what we did was take pictures of each one, and we created a Shutterfly book, a book online that you can do, upload the picture, and you can write a little paragraph about it. And when it came in the mail, they were so excited because they could take their collection of birdhouses with them without taking the items. Number 4 was wholesale versus retail. You won't get back what you paid for something. This can be hard if we paid a lot of money for something and we want to recoup that cost. Often you won't. It deteriorates in value. Most things don't increase. They're like cars. We drive them off the lot and they're already have gone down in value. Number 5, condition matters for value and donation. If you have china or crystal or something that is chipped, that brings that item down in value. A good rule of thumb is to think, if I wouldn't, would I give this to my children? If you wouldn't give it to your children, don't give it to donation, because they're often nowadays raising money for a cause. So they want to put the best things on their shelves that they can get. And often now, because of COVID, many people are starting to downsize and go through their homes. So if you've gone lately to Goodwill or ARC or Salvation Army, you'll see that the lines are really long. So they're getting inundated with items. So if you have things, take them now and little by little. If you have large groups of things, sometimes they'll only take a few of them, and call ahead. We'll talk about that. Call ahead or look online and see what they take. Number 6 is family history. Without provenance or certification may be wrong. If you're saving something that the oral history in the family has been, you have to keep this because this is a part of history, but there's no provenance that goes with it, it may not have the value that you think it does. For example, baseballs. A lot of signatures have to be authenticated if you don't have the certification. And many people look at these things as their nest eggs. So if you have an item, have it looked at, have it appraised, do your research so that if a time comes where you want to sell it, you have that. Or if you want to pass it down to family, they have that history with it. Number 7, remember your goal. Your goal is to open up space if you're not moving, to make your own decisions as you go through your closets and storerooms, and to make the transition easier and less expensive. A 5-bedroom house that has been downsized can be less expensive to move than a 2-bedroom home that's packed with items that you don't need. So you don't want to have to box up and pay to have things moved that are just going to go back into a storeroom. So that's where you start making those decisions. Why is it hard for us to let things go? If it was easy for us to do it, I wouldn't be coming out talking to people. There are reasons why it's hard for us to let go of items. In the center, you'll see it says fears and pressures. We are often afraid that we are the only ones with too much stuff, or we're getting pressure from our family or our kids that we should start going through things and getting rid of things. So around the circle are the reasons why we hold on. Number one is memories. We hold on to something because we think we're going to lose the memory of that item. And again, taking pictures of it means you can take the photo and the memory, but you don't have to take the item. Think about the things that you're keeping. If you're holding on to a trophy because it signifies an accolade or something you did in your history, if you don't want to take a photograph and you're not sure what to do with it, put those things aside. Then as you start going through closets and you start gaining momentum and it gets a little bit easier, go back to those items and take another look at them. I know that your feelings will have changed about it and you'll be able to make better decisions. Number two is perceived value. Again, we hold on to things that we think are going to be our nest egg, that we're going to be able to sell and have money down the line. If you think you have something, again, get it appraised. But don't just hold on to something, a picture, a painting, a piece of pottery that you think is going to be worth a lot of money and then to find out that it's not. It's much easier to go through things and let something go if it's not something you need to keep because of the value. The next one is gifts, especially in Minnesota with Minnesota Nice. We hold on to things that somebody has given us, even though we only put it out when they visit. So I tell people and anybody I talk to, you don't have to do that anymore. If somebody gives you an item, they should never ask about it. But if they do and you don't have it anymore, the regular thing that I say is that I loved it when I had it and I passed it along to somebody who can continue to enjoy it. So if you give something to somebody, never ask about it and really decide on those gifts. If it's something that the kids gave you when they were younger and you don't really want it, but you don't want to get rid of it because they gave it to you, ask them if they want it back. Or make a pact. When you start downsizing, maybe in anticipation of moving, have a family discussion and talk about those gifts. Tell them that you will ask them if they want it and they will not offend you if they say, no, I don't need that. Then let it go. That will make it much easier for you. The next one is personal identity. We hold on to those things because we want people to know what we've accomplished in our lifetime. We hold on to awards. We hold on to many, many scrapbooks, even if we're 60, 70, and 80 and they are from high school or college. Often I hear that people want their grandkids to know that they did something. They want to show them the pictures. Pictures are easy, but holding on to other things that you have to keep moving with you, that you don't need to do. So think about those things you're holding on to. Are you holding on to it because you want to share that memory someday? Share the memory now. It's a little bit easier to let that go. And maybe your kids would want that. Maybe your grandkids would want that. But if they don't, share the memory and then let the item go. The top one is legacy items. This is often one of the toughest, especially for older adults, because we promised our grandparents and our parents, when we got the family heirlooms, that we would be good stewards of them. We would take good care of them, be responsible, and when the time came for us to hand it down, we would do that. Well, now's the time. And our kids are telling us, no, we don't want anything. Well, there's a couple of reasons for that. In this age, many of us received things that our parents had because when we started our households, we didn't have anything. And maybe your parents and grandparents gave you furniture to start your house. We took those items because we didn't have anything. Well, now, if you're an older adult and your kids are in their 30s or 40s, plus, they've already started their households. So they often don't have the room themselves, or they are downsizing at this time. So they're not able to house those things. Well, then what do? Maybe you have silver, crystal, things like that from the family. Ask the family if they want them. And then if you work with general transitions, a move manager can help you with that. Figure out where you can sell things, where you can consign things, or where you can donate them. Because often the memories that come with legacy items, things that are heirlooms, maybe if you're a grandchild, you don't have the same memories that your parents and your grandparents did. So the ashtray that you remember your grandfather using with his pipe, your children never saw. So they don't have a connection to that item. And being aware of that is really important. Listen here, mister, there's no such thing as too much Tupperware. I'm going to stop my screen from sharing for a moment because I want to show you something. My Cool Whip container is not Tupperware, but many of us have this. We think of it as Tupperware. Many people have these that they think of as Tupperware. These are wonderful things to recycle. If you have old Tupperware or old Rubbermaid, those are wonderful things to give to donation. What I can tell you is when I work with someone, they go down to about 10 pieces of Tupperware. They should have tops. They should be different sizes and shapes, especially if you're moving, because you don't want to pay to move Tupperware. And we all know we can get new Tupperware anytime we want. I also talk to people a lot about keeping Tupperware. The reason they keep it is because if you're a baker or somebody that cooks for family get-togethers, you often save them to give to grandchildren, nieces, and nephews to take leftovers in. I solved that problem a couple years ago because I often cook for big groups of people, and then I want people to take leftovers home. I ask them to bring their own containers, their own baggies, and then I fill them up and they take them away. So you don't have to accumulate these things. You can get rid of them. Most of them will be recyclable because I know a lot of people get them at the delis and at the grocery store, and those items will either go in your recycling or if you compost. They're often compostable. All righty. So the sorting process, before you start going through linen closets and cupboards, talk about what your new lifestyle is going to be like. Maybe you're moving and your lifestyle is going to change quite a bit. Maybe you're just downsizing for a future move down the line, maybe a couple years away. Have these discussions and answer a few of these questions because you want to start a dialogue in your head for when you start going through cupboards and you've already talked about what kind of lifestyle you want to have. It's easier when you take that platter down from the shelf and you're no longer having Thanksgiving at your house. Maybe you've passed that on to nieces or nephews or kids. Then you say, well, I'm not having it, but maybe that person that is having a meal would like the platter. So offer it to them. This won't slow you down because you'll already have talked about these things. So let me give you an idea. Will you be doing your own cleaning? Well, if you're moving to the Point or Cherrywood Point, You will often have somebody coming in to help you with housework. So you won't need to take all of the things that you've used in your home where you have 2+ bathrooms. And I do know that a lot of people use different cleaning supplies, and even if they don't work, we don't get rid of them. We keep putting them under the sink and we accumulate those things. Those are wonderful things to bring to hazardous waste recycling. And often people can go down to even just one bucket and carry around your supplies as you clean, even if you have a couple bathrooms. So think about how you're doing your cleaning. Will you be cooking, and has that changed? Well, if you're moving to a community, you're possibly going to have meals at the community. Maybe all of them, maybe just a few of them. How are you cooking then for 1 or 2? Has that changed? Are you a baker? Do you have the mixers and all those things you used to use? And now you're not baking on that kind of scale. Those are wonderful things to donate. So think about how you're cooking. Do you need 7 frying pans? Most people can get along very well with just 3, small, medium, or large. So how are you cooking? Do you need the bread makers? Come across a lot of those lately. Those are often what I find with the juicers in what I call the kitchen graveyard. That's that cupboard, that lower cupboard that is around the corner that we don't really see anymore. That's where all those things accumulate. And those are great things to donate. The next will be, will you be entertaining and how? This is a really big question because many people moving from a larger space to a smaller aren't having huge gatherings like they used to. Maybe they had several different sets of dishes. And now you want to take your favorite set and maybe give away or do something with the others. Maybe you're not going to have the big get-togethers, but you're still doing book club, Bible study, poker night. If you're still doing those things, and maybe you used to have maybe lunch or dinner along with that, maybe you've now kind of brought it down to snacks or some light hors d'oeuvres. And many people are moving from using dishware to paper products. So how are you entertaining? Think about that, write it down, because as you start going through those cupboards with your dishware, you'll be able to make better and easier decisions. Do you need all your seasonal holiday decorations? This is a really hard one. I often, when I do this in person and I talk to people, I ask, raise your hand if you have 1 bin of holiday decorations. I had a wonderful woman who raised her hand once and said, 1 for each holiday. You want to scale that down, especially if you're moving to a smaller place. What I've done in my own house is I used to decorate my whole house, but now I decorate the living room, the kitchen, maybe the guest bathroom. So I've picked places in the house that I'm going to decorate, and I've narrowed down the items I put out to my favorites, the things that I really want to have pride of place, rather than the things that have been passed down to me that maybe I don't really like or that have gotten old or belong in my, what I call the ornament hospital, because they've broken and I keep thinking I'm going to fix them over the years. Now is a fantastic time to start going through those because you're putting items out for the holidays. The Goodwills and the Ark Value Village and places are taking those items. So now is the perfect time to go through, and I challenge you to only put out those things you really love, that you want to have pride of place, and then start giving, maybe if you have family that you can send things to. I know I used to say that if you have family coming over, start giving it away. Maybe earmark things for grandkids. Put them in a box and send that to them with a note on what those things mean or where you got them or who made them. Will you be doing your own maintenance? If you're moving from a house that has a garage, Maybe you have a workbench with tools that you haven't used in a long time or you're not going to be using. Maybe you're having a garage sale. These are wonderful things to sell at garage sale, especially putting it in your ad, because a lot of people come out to look at tools. You can also donate tools to Habitat for Humanity, to Leonardo's Basement. There's wonderful places in the Twin Cities. I can tell you that a lot of people buying homes now, the younger generation, they're not buying those items like saws. They're going to the Minneapolis or St. Paul tool libraries and they're checking them out for the weekend and then they're bringing them back. So they're not accumulating the things that we used to accumulate. So look through your items, see what you can donate, put them in a box and bring them to donation. Because if you're moving to a community or a smaller, even apartment or condo, you're probably going to have a maintenance person available to do all the heavy stuff. So what I usually do with clients is go down to a toolbox and we put a hammer and a few screwdrivers, nails, picture hanging things, stuff that you'll need on a regular basis if you're just in your apartment or your home, but you can call on somebody to do the big things. So I'm going to talk a second about the complementary assessment that General Transitions does. People often, as I said, haven't moved for a long time. So they want to know what is going to be the cost to move? What services can I get? Do I have to have somebody do the whole thing? And the answer for General Transitions is no. We often will tailor make our moves if you want us to do pieces of it, or we can certainly do the whole move and coordinate everything. So if people are looking for that information, they can call General Transitions. They can say, I want a complimentary move assessment, and a move manager will come out. Now, our move managers at General Transitions, they're not salespeople. They are what they consider educators. They're people that have helped older adults move for many years. They will come out and share resources with you, talk about what kind of services you're looking for, and they'll leave you with an estimate for our services and also the truck, because we coordinate the truck when you're moving. And then you have that resource and can make decisions on if you'd like us to help you or you'd like pieces of it. If someone calls us back and says, yes, we'd like to use you, then that same move manager, because they're going to follow you through your whole move, they bring the floor plan. So if you're moving to Cherrywood Point or the Point, you will get your floor plan. That move manager will go through the floor plan and with you in your house and decide what you're going to bring. They're going to make sure that the measurements are right and that everything fits in your floor plan, because you do not want to bring things that don't have a place. And you want to make sure the things you want to bring will fit in the area that you want it to fit in. So even if you're moving yourself, make sure to get that floor plan. It's so important, because you will notice if you're moving from a larger place to a smaller place, you're going to have to really think about what you want to bring with you. I always tell people to do their own measurements as well. You don't have to do it as much for newer places like the Point or Cherrywood Point, but if you're moving into an older place, I always say measure the closet rods so you know the amount of clothes you can bring, and also measure the cupboards, the width and the depth, because new cupboards are not as big as what we're used to in older buildings. And you want to make sure that what you're bringing will fit. When everything is empty, it seems like you have a lot of space, and you will find that that quickly gets filled up. You also want to measure the depth of your drawers. If you're in your new place, take a picture of the kitchen, because people often forget how many cupboards and how many drawers they have. And some of the newer drawers are only about 2.5 inches deep. And if you have big spatulas, they might not fit. So that's what a move manager would do. If you're moving yourself, take those measurements so that you know that something will fit where you want it to go. Here's 20 bucks. Make sure the plaid chair never gets there. This has actually happened before, but I put this in because it's hard to adapt to a new place if you get all new furniture and everything is brand new. That doesn't help with keeping your blood pressure down. So what I recommend is start putting things in your floor plan in a room that you spend most of your time in. So if you spend a lot of time in your den, go in your den and make sure you put that chair in that you watch the news at night and the table next to it with the lamp on it that you can turn on without looking. That will keep you comfortable in your new space if you have some of your own furniture. So remember to bring those things. So now that we've talked about why it's hard to get rid of things, now we're going to start. So the first thing I do is get boxes and bags ready. I always start with the trash. I put together a box and I put a trash bag inside of it. That way you won't stop and have to keep bending down to put something in the garbage, and your momentum can keep going forward because we're always going to find bits and pieces that we need to get rid of. So you have your trash, and then think about the things you're going to find in your home. Are you going to find things for your children or things that you wanted to give to your grandkids or you want people to look at to see if they want? What I usually do is make a bag, like a brown grocery bag or a box, and I put each person's name on it and we put them along a wall. Then as we start going through closets and we end up with a yearbook and we say, well, maybe Janie wants this, put that in her box. That won't stop your momentum and it'll be a place to bring that item. Put them in their box and then tell them they need to come look at their box within 2 weeks. Give them a deadline because then you know if they come and they take what they want, you can load up that bag or box right in the car and take it to donation. If you have somebody that lives out of state, either take pictures of those items, send them a text with that picture, and I guarantee you'll get a text very soon that probably says, no, thank you. But then you know what to do with that item. Then I always make a hazardous box. This is usually a box where you would put all the old paint you might have down in the storeroom or in closets or cupboards, any cleaning supplies that you want to get rid of. And every county has their own hazardous recycling center. You want to make sure you go to the one in your county because when you pull up, they'll look at your license and then they'll just have you go forward and they make it very easy. They take it right out of your car for you and then you can drive away. And it doesn't cost anything. If you're thinking of getting rid of small TVs and electronics, check their website first to see what they take. And then it's usually just a very small fee. Sometimes it's $15 for a TV. I just brought a microwave to Hennepin County Recycling and it cost me $15. So that's a great place to bring things that you're not using or that are broken. At General Transitions, when somebody is moving, we will often use dots as a communication tool. These are the dots that you see for garage sales. We use green, yellow, and red. So we often are putting green stickers on things that are going with you, that are in your floor plan. We use yellow for things that you're undecided about. So when your floor plan is done, if those things are left over, family can look at them, or you know that they can be donated. Then we use red for something that is broken, or something that's going to go in the dumpster, or something you just don't want and it isn't nice enough to give to donation. That's a great communication tool if you're not using a company that like General Transitions and you're moving yourself and family's helping you pack up your kitchen. You can start in the kitchen in one cupboard, take everything out, only put back the things you use on a regular basis, and then put a green sticker on that cabinet. Once you're done with your kitchen, you could just tell a family member, just pack everything that has a green dot on it. Then you don't have to be in the kitchen while they're packing. So the green things are your treasures. They're things that are going in your floor plan. Maybe these are heirlooms. Maybe they're photos. Photos are often the question I get a lot. What should I do with all the photos that I have in all the boxes? Well, there's one good way to handle those pictures is open a box. If it's a big box of pictures, use a shoebox and just take a few pictures at a time and go through the shoebox full in the chair that you watch the news at night with a photo pen and a garbage. If there's things like landscape, things that people have no idea what is in this picture, toss it. If it's somebody that's an ancestor or a family member, put their name on the back if it's not on there. Then put everything back in the shoebox, and everything is going to be just go right back in the box because your children are probably going to digitize it anyway. So you don't have to put them in photo albums. A lot of people say, well, I have a lot of photo albums, and when I move to my new place, I'll have lots of time. You don't want to put that burden on yourself. You want to join into all the fun activities that are going on. You do not want to spend time undoing boxes and going through photos. So think about that. The next one is the yellow dots. These are the getting rid of things after you've put everything in your floor plan. Maybe you are having an estate sale. Antique appraisers need to look at them. You want to consign them, give them to family or to charity. And I'll run through this a little bit, these different items, starting with estate sales. Out of the 1,200 people we moved last year, only 5% had an estate sale. There's a reason for that. It's because estate sale people want you to have enough stuff that they value because they're going to be paid first. So you want to make sure that you interview a couple of them if you're going to have an estate sale. You want to make sure they're professional, you like them, they've been in the business for years, they have appraisers, and ask them how they advertise. Do they have a mailing list? Do they use social media? Because you want as many people to see you're having a sale as possible. You also want to ask them if they set up, and after the sale is over, do they help you clean up and deliver the items that didn't sell to somewhere else? So they help you from start to finish. Many people that I work with as a sorter have different charitable organizations they'd like to give to. So I always ask. So if you have somebody coming to help you, be assertive about saying where you'd like your things to go. That's really important so that you feel good about passing your things on. A lot of people use Bridging, which is a wonderful organization that helps people out of homelessness and poverty start with things to start their apartments. And they want basic things. They want towels and lamps and utensils and dishes. Other things are Salvation Army and ARC. So definitely think about where you want these items to go ahead of time. You can, if you have larger items or many boxes, call them and ask them if they pick up. Do they charge a fee? What do they accept? And get the tax slip. Some people sell things on the internet using social media, eBay and Craigslist. Facebook has a free Facebook Marketplace or Facebook Marketplace if you're selling something for money. I have often used one of my phone apps right now that is Nextdoor, which is the people in your community, and you can expand that into different neighborhoods. So they're often people that you know that are close to where you live. And I will often put something on my driveway and put it on Nextdoor, say free, anybody for the taking. And I often will have it gone within a few hours, sometimes within a half hour. So use that as a tool as well. The reds are things that people are getting rid of, maybe broken things or things you don't use anymore. A lot of people are using bagsters, those green bags you see on driveways. You can get them at Home Depot, Menards, any hardware store. They're about $29. and set them up. You can throw almost anything in them except for electronics and hazardous. You could throw all the wood that you have in your garage, all the items, the metal items. You can throw toilets, you can throw filing cabinets. It's absolutely amazing. And a lot of times the people that pick it up will separate it and recycle and donate. So that's a great alternative because you can fill it and call and they will pick it up within 3 days. And then you pay for the pickup by usually your zip code. And you can check that ahead of time. Sometimes it can be around $100. But if you have a lot of stuff in your garage or in your home that you just want to throw away, it might be worth it. So that's a good resource to check into. When you choose a mover, Gentle Transitions, when we move somebody, we coordinate and hire the mover. We have been around for 30 years. So we have vetted several moving companies that we use on a regular basis. If you're going to choose your own mover, then I would suggest making sure that they're local, that they move residential, they've been in the business for years, and that they are bonded, insured, and licensed. You also want to ask them, have you moved people to this location before? Because if they haven't, they may not know that where they're dropping off your furniture is on the other side of where you're moving into than your apartment. So that distance is going to add time. Maybe they don't know the policy of the place you're moving into. At Gentle Transitions, our move managers know the policy of every place we move people into. And that is knowing that you can use one elevator and where you need to be loading and unloading. So if the company that you're hiring doesn't know that they're only going to be able to use one elevator, that's going to add a lot of time, and that will be a surprise at the end as far as how much it costs. So remember that too. That's a great question to ask. At Gentle Transitions, we pack and move in 2 days. So if a house is downsized, we can pack up that house in 4 to 6 hours. That move manager will determine how many people are in your move team. And the same person that's packing up your kitchen is going to unpack it the next day. So they're paying close attention to where you like your spices and making it as familiar as possible in your new location. Gentle Transitions, we also carry iPads and iPhones, and we take pictures of things so that things stay the same. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. So on the pack day, usually everybody shows up about 9 o'clock and starts packing. Then the next day is Unpack and Resettle day. That's when your move manager shows up in the morning and the truck arrives and they start loading the boxes and the furniture. Now, the people that are unpacking you aren't there yet. Once the truck leaves your old address and comes to your new place, then that move manager lets your team know that they can arrive and start unpacking. We unpack all the boxes, make the beds, put clothes in the closets, make sure your lamps are plugged in, set the clocks, get the computer running, and hang the artwork if you'd like us to do that, so that everything is done. We also, as I said, photograph and replicate. That's something we're known for. And that's something your family can do for you as well, or yourself. Take pictures of the items for maybe proof of condition, if you're having somebody move you. We do it a lot to keep a client's things familiar. And we don't want to redo your design efforts. So if you have a china cabinet where you've taken time to put things exactly where you want it, we will take a picture of each shelf. And then when that china cabinet is in your new place and has been polished, then everything goes back because we look at the pictures in the same exact place. This is important to keeping your blood pressure down and keeping things familiar. We also take a picture of the refrigerator. If you have a lot of things on your refrigerator, as people often do, they have the doctor's phone numbers, they have the vet's phone numbers, they have invitations, pictures. You want those things to be available when you get to your new place. So we take a picture of it and it goes back exactly as it was in your old place. So when you get to the point where you need to make a phone call and you're used to looking on your refrigerator, that will be there. Just those little things are really important to make it easier to acclimate to a new space. One day, son, all this will be yours. This is what you don't want to be. You don't want to have everything accumulated and not go through them before you move because you don't want to pay to move it. You want to decide where things are going to go. And you don't want to leave it for your children to do because that takes the decisions away from you and you want to make those yourself. So as I said, start early, start small, start in an area where you can feel like you're making progress, even if it's just a junk drawer. We all know that when we clean up the junk drawer, it makes us feel good. So go from the junk drawer to do the linen closet. Linen closets can have just the amount of towels that you use and all the things you use on a daily basis. So start early and start small. That's what I have for you today. And I want to open up to questions. If I have not touched on something that you have a question about, or if you have a question on the point or cherrywood point, you can let us know. So we're going to open it up. Let's see.
Perfect. Thank you. That was wonderful. Yes, please. Anyone who has any questions, please enter them in the chat, or we have the Q&A piece there. But I know we had a lot of people nodding along and, thinking that was exactly what they needed to hear as you went through that. So we really appreciate it. But anybody who has a question, don't be ashamed. There's not a bad question. Please fire away.
And if you don't want to ask on the chat, feel free to email me. I would be happy to take your emails at jill@gentletransitions.net if you need a resource or something like that.
Sure. So one of the questions here was, will this be on your website for us to be able to rewatch? So we did record this and we certainly can send out the recording. So I know there was a lot of very good information here and I'm sure some people want to slow that down or pass it on. So we'll provide you the opportunity to do that.
Terrific.
What other questions do we have?
Let's see. Some people ask me about books. A lot of people have accumulated many books. There are wonderful places to donate books to. And if you put them in boxes, usually if you have 3 or 4 boxes of books, somebody will pick them up. So that's a great resource. If you need somebody to deal with books, give us a call at Gentle Transitions and we can give you different resources.
Perfect.
What is Leonardo's Basement? Thank you for asking. Leonardo's Basement is a wonderful place in Minneapolis where they have classes for adults and children, usually during the summer. And they teach them how to use power tools and create different items. It's really interesting to see them use old trophies. And the kids will make really interesting things with trophy parts. So they will take just about any tool that is new or really new, not too used. They will also take bits and pieces of things. If you have things in your garage that are old switches or, any kind of plates or wiring, you want to check their website, leonardosbasement.com. And they usually have a list of things that they're looking for. That's a great location to bring things because they will often really rely on donations. I'm reading about the trophies. That's wonderful. 25 trophies. That's amazing.
Yeah, so the
That's
note,
terrific. And
people see that, but they sent their trophies to a place in Wisconsin that reuses them to make new trophies for underprivileged kids. 25 trophies in a box. They charged $20 for her to do that. So what a neat way to kind of give back. I know a lot of us have a lot of trophies that, you know, not quite sure what to do with.
You can actually find probably the location if you don't remember the name of the company. Look them up on the internet and just put in who takes old trophies in Wisconsin. It's amazing what you can get that'll pop up. I can also tell you that Goodwill and places like that take trophies because people come in and pop off the plate and put in their own. Or I know when we used to have, when our kids played hockey, we used to have banquets, and we'd use the old trophies. We'd go around to all the Goodwills and get all the trophies for either baseball or hockey and use them and then bring them back so they can be reused and recycled.
Very cool. Perfect. Well, maybe we'll take one more question here. We're coming up on our time. We'll see if there's one more question that comes in. If not, that's okay as well. Or we do it through the Q&A.
Let's see.
How do we contact you is one of the questions.
How do you contact us at Gentle Transitions? You can either find us online at www.gentletransitions.net. That's probably the best place. The phone number is 952-944-1028.
I'm actually going to put the Gentle Transitions website here in the chat so everybody can click on that to go to the website. All right, final question. What is the best way to sell stereo equipment and speakers?
I would say put them, advertise them on Facebook Marketplace or on an app like Nextdoor. There's several people, especially now since albums are coming back in, they refurbish them or work on the electronics. There's also a place called Tech Dump, TECHDUMP, and they will charge for people to bring in electronics. Usually it's a nominal amount. That's a great place to bring different electronics.
Perfect. I just threw that URL in the chat as well. So we'll leave it at that. We are coming up on our time, but thank you again, Jill. That was wonderful. Thank you, Reese. And everybody. So we'll get a recording of this out to everybody. Feel free to pass it along. And yeah, thank you all for attending. This is wonderful.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.